On today's show, the Atlanta Hawks are going to Las Vegas after a very impressive road win at MSG over the New York Knicks on this Wednesday evening in the NBA Cup quarterfinal. We'll get into how it transpired, how the Hawks won this game without shooting the ball very well, all the way across, all the details and more, and all that is coming up.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1865 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Rowland, coming to you on a Wednesday evening into Thursday here in mid-December. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. I also want to encourage you at the top of the podcast, as I always do, to make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Check us out and subscribe to the show on your favorite audio platforms. That includes Apple and Spotify, plus Overcast, Amazon Music, and much more. Plus, we are on YouTube, so please like the video as you're watching it there and support the podcast by subscribing and downloading on audio and on video to support the show. And I very much appreciate all the support. In fact, this will be a fun show. The Hawks got a massive, massive victory on the road on this Wednesday evening, 108-100 over the New York Knicks, and they will advance to Las Vegas. This is a quarterfinal matchup. If you were under a rock the last few days, the stakes were very clear. At the end, it was Trae Young celebrating by mimicking throwing dice on the court at Madison Square Garden. A pretty appropriate one. Everybody's fired up about this game. Of course, the Hawks have now won 7 of their last 8 games overall. They had a little bit of a hiccup on Sunday against the Nuggets at home with a couple injuries. They did not play well in that game, but now overall 14-12 on the season, and more importantly for the short term, a chance to be, they're in the Final Four when it comes to the NBA Cup. And there are, as I talked about yesterday on the show extensively, not everyone's in love with the NBA Cup, but certainly it matters to the players, it matters to the teams, and they're invested here, and the Hawks are very much alive and playing very well right now on the whole. The Hawks were fortunate enough to be basically at full strength in this game. There was some uncertainty about Jalen Johnson, Bogdanovic. They both came back and played in this game, and that was very important, particularly with Jalen, who played very well in this spot. But they were still underdogs in this game. The Hawks were, despite beating the Knicks earlier in the season at home, Atlanta came in as an 8-point underdog at FanDuel, which is a pretty big number on it wasn't a neutral court, but still one of those things where the Hawks were seen as the underdog for a reason in this game. They never led in the first half. They were now led by as many as 12 points before halftime. Offensively, it was kind of a wreck in the first half, if we're being honest. But they got back within 7 at halftime, which I was noting even in real time was really important because they were not shooting the ball well, but they were hanging in the game. They were scratching, they were clawing, they were competing. After halftime, the Hawks played great. They really did. They were down by 7 at halftime. The third quarter was 34-18 in favor of Atlanta. One of their best quarters of the season, full stop, especially when you take into account the stakes, the opponent, the location. Trae Young was awesome in that period. He was awesome in this game, as was Jalen Johnson. It was a total team effort for sure. The Hawks were balanced, but their stars played like stars. And we'll dive into it now, but just an awesome performance on the whole for the Hawks. And it wasn't fluky. It wasn't one of those games that happen in the NBA. They do happen where a team just shoots great or overcomes things, gets a little bit lucky, gets the right balances, etc. The Hawks, look, I've been breaking this drum for a while now, so let's just start there. I won't stop tonight. The Hawks defense is good. It is. It's just good. Now, early in the season, I was pointing this out. They were getting unlucky defensively. They weren't playing great either, but they were getting unlucky. They were getting shot on from three-point range at a level that was not sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. And during this run of the last 3 weeks or so, the Hawks defense has been top 10 level in the league. And when you look under the hood a little bit, those numbers are kind of sustainable, or at least close to it. And they're just playing very well defensively. The theory of the case for this team, the way it's been built around Trae Young with big physical wings, especially Dyson Daniels is sort of the headliner there, but more size, more athleticism, and the Hawks have just executed very well defensively, and it was awesome in this game. For example, the Knicks came into the night with the best offensive rating in the NBA. They were the most efficient team in the league on offense this season. They are awesome on offense. They had a 121 offensive rating for the season coming into today. The Hawks held them to a 101 offensive rating. For comparison's sake, a 101 offensive rating is like worst in the league kind of level. In fact, that is worse than the number 30 offense right now. It's one game, yes, but the Hawks played extremely well defensively in this game. For example, New York is a team that's elite in ball security. They do not turn the ball over very much. I, on yesterday's show, previewed this game, and I talked about just keeping the turnover margin kind of in reasonable range for the Hawks, because the Hawks have been turning the ball over probably more than they want to this year, and the Knicks are awesome at that. Instead of keeping it at a reasonable range, the Hawks just won the turnover battle. They forced 15 giveaways from the Knicks in this game that helped to lead transition opportunities for the Hawks offense, and that was a huge factor in the Hawks winning this game on the margins. They also won the rebounding battle a lot. The Knicks did not shoot well. That is not all the Hawks doing. Part of it is the Hawks were really good defensively, challenging shots. They got a little bit of luck when it comes to three-point shooting, 11 of 42 for the Knicks, but it wasn't like Atlanta made a lot of shots too, as we'll come back to later on, and they contested really well defensively. They did a great job of not giving up easy ones in transition in this game. That was a huge factor in keeping the efficiency down for the Knicks. They had a sub-85 offensive rating in half-court settings. The Hawks were just clamping down when the Knicks were not able to run in this one. They walled off the rim really well. They held the Knicks to 63% from the rim area in this game, which is a very good number for the defense. And look, the headliner on defense is always for the Hawks, at least most of the time, Dyson Daniels, and that's the case in this game. Dyson did not have a steal, which is a rarity for him. Did have 2 blocks, but more importantly, he held Jalen Brunson in check and more. Brunson had 14 points on 16 shooting possessions in this game. He's their offensive hub for the Knicks, and he was very much swallowed up by Dyson. That was a national coming out party for Dyson Daniels. The only thing that you could have wished for as a Hawks fan would be for him to have some steals to get the stats. But for me, watch the game. He was fantastic defensively in this one. He has been a first-team all-defense level player so far this year, and that was not certainly going to be slowing down after this game and this performance. They also contained Karl-Anthony Towns really well. That was a theme in this game. Towns was quite good, I thought, on the whole for the Knicks, but it wasn't like he was dominant at all. I thought Capella was tremendous defensively in this game. Okongwu was better in the second half as well. It was a team effort. No one was like doing it all by themselves. But the Hawks did a really good job on the interior, and that was huge. Overall, as well, the second half defensively was even better than the first. They had a 98 defensive rating after halftime, and they earned it. Certainly on the short list for me of best defensive halves of the season for the Hawks. They were absolutely everywhere on defense the entire half. And honestly, one of the best defensive games, if not the best, of the season, especially when you factor in the stakes and the opponent and all of that. Doing that against an elite offense, holding them down to, one more time, 100 points on 99 possessions in this game for the Knicks. That is absolutely fantastic. Sometimes when you have low point totals or high point totals, they can be kind of marred by slow pace, fast pace, etc. It was a relatively slow pace game, but the Hawks did a really, really good job defensively. And honestly, look, people that I know are smart, they're not watching every Hawks game. They're national writers and things. Everybody's like, man, this defense looks legit. And yes, I've been banging the drum for a while. This is at full strength, and that's a key component there because they're deep bench guys. You're getting your David Roddy's or whatever. It's a little bit rough at times, but when they are at full strength, this 8 or 9 guys that play tonight is a good defense. It's not an elite one most of the time, but they played really well tonight, and that was, for me, clearly the key to the game was the way the Hawks defended the Knicks in this one. Offensively, they were good enough. They didn't do anything that was elite necessarily in the overall efficiency categories, but they did what they needed to do. And I'll come back to it because it was even more stark in the first half, which I'll note later on. But if you listen to the show the last couple of days, both with my crossover with Locked On Knicks on Monday night into Tuesday, and then my solo preview podcast on Tuesday, I circled the possession battle on both of those episodes as a big key to the game. And people always ask me why I do that. And this is a great example of why. This game is a perfect example of why. It played out in front of everyone's eyes tonight, how important it is to win on the margins. Here's the crazy stat of the night offensively. The Hawks won this game by 8 points on the road in New York against a good team with an elite offense. And they did that with 47.9% true shooting. If you don't know what that number is, that is terrible true shooting. The Hawks did not shoot the ball well at all in this game. In fact, they shot the ball terribly in this game. And if all I told you coming into the night was that the Hawks were underdogs against a good defense, against a good offense in the Knicks, and that they had 48% true shooting, I would have had to say that they were in big trouble. But they won everything else in this game. They were so good at everything else in this game other than shooting. And shooting is the most important thing on either side of the floor. It's opponent shooting or your own shooting that dictates a lot of things. But if you're good enough everywhere else, you can overcome it, and that happened in this game. For example, they had 22 offensive rebounds. 22 offensive rebounds. 4 for Jalen, 4 for Clint, 5 for Dyson, 5 for Onyeka. It was up and down the court. They grabbed more than 40% of their own misses. And they weren't always putting them back in the rim for buckets, but extra possessions led to extra efficiency for the team. Only 11 turnovers in the game. They won that margin very well. That is way better than their sort of national league average so far. They were awesome there. They won the free throw attempt margin. They took more attempts at the line than the Knicks did. They won transition by a lot. The Hawks were awesome when they got out and ran in this game. They also had good balance. They had 20-point scorers, 3 of them. They had 7 guys with 7 points or more. Trae's going to get the attention nationally, and that makes sense. He's the star. He was really good in this game. He took on the Knicks crowd, et cetera, et cetera. But the Hawks basically really buckled down and gutted this game out. They really did. Trae was part of that. He was awesome in the third quarter in particular. But I'm kind of glad, and by the way, Jalen Johnson, speaking of, I referenced Dyson before in his national breakout game defensively. This was Jalen's a full-on announcement. And I wish and hope people were more cognizant of him already than they needed to be tonight. But Jalen goes out and puts up, spoiler alert, 21, 15, and 7 on a national stage and was just great. So I'm still glad overall as a defensive sicko. I love defensive listening to the podcast regularly. You will know that. But I'm glad perception-wise, the caricature of this Hawks team, they don't defend. Trae Young doesn't defend. They can't defend, et cetera. But they won this game with their defense. It was so obvious that people had to kind of acknowledge it nationally. I think people, even the smart people that I know, have not quite caught up yet to the Hawks defensively being as good as they've been so far. But again, they won this game semi-convincingly while shooting terribly and winning with their defense and with rebounding and turnover margin and doing all the little things well, and a really fun game. So we'll have more details in a second. But of course, the biggest win of the season for the Hawks so far, they've had a lot of big wins in recent days. You know, beating the Cavs twice, beating the Celtics without Trae, beating the Bucks on the road. They've had a lot of good wins. But this one in a standalone spot, national TV, win or go home when it comes to the NBA Cup, which of course is part of this equation too. An awesome performance. It wasn't flawless. There were moments where it was kind of ugly, but in the end, a great night for the Hawks, and on to Vegas from here. Okay, we'll get into how this game unfolded in a second with more details, my observations, my analysis, and more. First, though, work more partners on the podcast today. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. It's awesome to attend sporting events live. I'm lucky to do that all the time for my job, but even when I'm not working, there's such an experience to being in games in person that you just cannot replicate. And at Game Time, you get tickets across the board for sporting events. That includes basketball games, football games, hockey games, baseball games, etc., plus tickets for music, comedy, theater, and more. In the future, they're called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets even easier and better for you. And that Game Time Picks offering allows you to only search through incredible deals on great seats, taking out all the fluff and saving you a ton of different time on searches what you actually don't have to make. For example, there are awesome deals right now in Atlanta, including for Hawks games at Game Time, including print tickets right now for $39 each, including fees for the home game in Atlanta on December 26th against the Chicago Bulls. That's an awesome price over the holidays in Atlanta, in a big city, of course, and there's more of that happening all the time at Game Time. I love the feature Game Time also that lets you turn on your seats to kind of view through on pricing, so there's no surprise fees at the end of the checkout process, and they have the lowest possible price guaranteed with the folks at Game Time. Take all of the guesswork out of buying tickets when it comes to using the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app right now, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use that code. It is LOCKEDONNBA. That code is LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. Today's show is sponsored by Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. And somewhere between the store and first plus bill, the price you actually thought you were going to be paying happens to magically skyrocket. And with Mint Mobile, you will never have to worry about gotchas ever again. And when they actually tell you Mint Mobile, that's $15 a month, including when you purchase a 3-month plan, they actually mean it. None of the complicated bills, none of the silly fees or upcharges. It's all plain for you at Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is also here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number as well, along with all of your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless service with $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That is mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill, $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $45 upfront payment required, up to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, we'll dive into how this game kind of unfolded. And I referenced it earlier briefly, but the Hawks were not great in the first half. In particular, offensively, it was pretty rough. They missed their first 8 shots, which is tough when you're an underdog on the road to go out there and miss all your shots, start the game. And they were really sped up, I thought. I thought they were a little bit antsy. I don't know if they would admit that or not, but they were not taking their time, it didn't seem like. They did a pretty good job defensively early on, but they were still only able to be down by 9 because of the defense. Like they were down 11-2. They did score a little bit more in the middle of the quarter after they got to the rim a little bit more often. That was the theme of the entire game. I thought Capella started the game really well, both ends of the floor. That was kind of helpful. Rotationally, there were some questions coming in. I was very confident in the top 8. I did not know how they were going to treat the 9th spot in the rotation. Ended up being Beat Krejci for 8 minutes in this game. Beat did his job. No Kobe bucket in this one. They did actually have a little bit of time with no Veet and no Trae. Dyson Daniels played a little bit at point guard, or we so to speak, point guard. But it was kind of what you expect. People always, especially today, as people were kind of back watching the Hawks again, where's Kobe Buffkin? I've discussed it the last couple of games. I did not like that he didn't play on Sunday. I kind of hated that, actually, and I said as much on the podcast. I wasn't surprised he didn't play tonight because he hadn't played the previous 2 games. Clearly, the Hawks are going with a little bit more veteranosity. Basically, that's not a word, but you know what I'm saying. Avoiding their young guys a little bit right now. I don't have a huge problem with it in the standalone spot. I would have maybe tried Kobe, but it didn't matter. He did his job, and that was kind of it for the rotation. Trae was able to get downhill and got in the paint. Early on, though, it was very clear to me and others that the Knicks were trying to play him as a scorer. They were playing off of him a little bit and trying to take away his kick-out passes. Because, Trae's the best passer in the league, in my opinion, at least among guards. Maybe Jokic is better, but certainly Trae's up there. And they were trying to kind of make him score. And Trae gave a quote in the walk-off interview where he basically said, he figured out what they were doing against him, which I think was fairly clear that it was what they were doing. But Trae adjusted to that and became more of a scorer, got some shots to fall. And he said this too, like once they fell, the Knicks kind of pivoted a little bit towards him. The passes opened it up a little bit, and he kind of figured it out. The light came on for Trae, which was good to see along the way. They had some bad fortune shooting the ball early in the game. I think they had 3 or 4 shots in the first 8 minutes that kind of spun around the rim and didn't go in. That's kind of what happens when you have a bad shooting night sometimes. They were down by 12 in the first quarter at one point. They did close fairly strong, got down to 6, but they just couldn't make a shot. The wings and forwards, basically everyone other than Trae and the centers, were 4 of 19 from the field in the first quarter. That was part of the reason why they were losing. They did force turnovers a lot early in the game, and that was definitely big. Bogey had a 3 after the Hawks couldn't make a shot for a while. I thought Okongwu really struggled in the first half. He was better in the second half, to be clear, but his first stint was really rough. He had a couple of poor decision-making moments on defense. He turned it over once into a crowd. Rebounding-wise, it was kind of rough, but he did bounce back, which was nice. They did allow a 10-2 run mid-second quarter. That was the one time the Hawks were kind of really on the ropes in this game, down 11 mid-quarter. They had an 85 offensive rating after about a quarter and a half. The Hawks just could not score. They did come back from there. Trae actually found Capella to catch the Knicks kind of napping a little bit on a nice pass after that. I thought New York got away with some physicality in the first half, some pretty clear fouls, honestly. But Dyson had a couple of unbelievable plays. The one that stood out to me was there was a 2-on-1 fast break that he just swallowed and created a turnover. Just an awesome play. They did a really good job, as I mentioned earlier, just staying in this game. They got called for a pretty soft, I thought it was kind of ridiculous foul in the final second of the first half to give the Knicks literally just 2 free points. Quinn could have challenged it, but it was a bad call and a bad spot and a play on moment. It was just kind of tough, but they were down by 7. Even with all that, down 7, they shot terribly. Even worse than the second half, they shot terribly in the first half. The starting forwards, Jalen Johnson, who was awesome in the second half, and Zachary Richer combined to shoot 3 of 16 in the first half. The Hawks missed 17 shots in the paint in the half. That's a crazy number. They had second percentile shooting in the first half, and they were still down by only 7. And I said at the time, that was a good sign. They were down 7, yes, but they played well other than shooting. But to be that bad, putting the ball in the basket and not be getting blown out, it was a good sign, and that ended up being the case later on. In the third quarter, Jalen Johnson comes out and scores the first 5 points immediately on assist by Trae Young. After he had struggled in the first half, did Jalen. He woke up a lot. Quinn had a nice challenge in the third quarter. It was a bad call against Dyson. Quinn jumped in, got his back on that, saved 2 free throws. They get charged a timeout. The Hawks were pretty short on timeouts in the second half, but they that kind of kickstarted a little bit of a run. They had an 8-0 run, down by 10 to get within 2. Richer had a nice help side block that led to a fast break bucket. In that sequence, Jalen got to the rim and got to the free throw line, 3-point play. Dyson tips it in for a 4-point play after Jalen misses the free throw. And the rest of that push was basically just Trae and Jalen being Trae and Jalen. Trae had 4 assists in the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. Jalen had 9 points, and that kickstarted things. Then that 8-0 run became a 25-6 overall run in favor of Atlanta. And that was the biggest swing in the game. The Hawks went from down by 10 to up by 9 in about 6 minutes. They flipped the game. That's as simple as I can put it. Trae scored 8 straight points, back-to-back threes. Hunter had 5 points in a row that were really big as well. A huge, authoritative left side drive to the rim for a dunk for Hunter, who's been awesome in this stretch. And then defensively, they just turned the water off on the Knicks. 4 points allowed in 11 possessions at one point. Just stop them cold. And they pushed the pace. It was a masterclass from the Hawks for about 7-8 minutes there in the third quarter. They won the quarter by 16 points. Trae had 12 and 5 assists. He was awesome. Jalen was awesome. So was Hunter. So were the centers. They finally made some threes in that quarter, but even then, they only shot 54% from the field in the third quarter. Now, that's obviously really good, but to win a quarter by 16 points against the Knicks, you would have thought, oh, man, they shot the ball crazy. No, they really didn't. They had 1 turnover, and they played great defense. That's what that was. Trae played the entire third quarter, which was, I understood that because he was rolling in that third quarter, so they went and did that. But they kind of had this moment I circled early in the fourth quarter where, all right, Trae's got to sit for a while. What happens? They bring in Veit. Veit did miss a wide open point-blank layup, which was kind of funny. But other than that, he did fine. And the headliner for me, the Hawks were able to steal more than 5 full minutes with Trae on the bench. It was pretty ugly from both sides. In fact, they combined to shoot 8 of 25, the Hawks and the Knicks, in that stretch, and 2 of 11 from 3. But the Hawks were up by 9 when Trae went to the bench, and they were up by 9 still when he came back in. And that was a huge factor for me to hold on to this lead. Dyson had a big 3 after that to go up by 11. A couple of possessions later, they had an awesome passing possession where they ended up swinging it to a corner 3 for Hunter. Trae then hit Hunter for a lob that was kind of a dagger adjacent play. It wasn't over at that point in time to go up by 13. It never really got interesting after that. It was 9 with about 2 minutes to go, and they scored on the next possession when Dyson got downhill, found Capella for a dunk. Then Trae found Capella for a dunk on the next possession after that. And when you're up by 9 or 11 points, you're trading buckets. That's totally fine at that point in time. And they did. And then they could have really ended it a few times in the last minute. They missed some shots that were available to them to close the door in authoritative fashion. But Capella got a huge offensive rebound with 30 seconds to go. They also fouled Karl-Anthony Towns out of the game. And the Knicks kind of gave up a little bit earlier than I would have thought. The game was probably over, but you don't usually see a team give up in a single elimination game that early. But they kind of did. They punted at the end. The Hawks held it out. I mentioned before, but Trae's celebrating with the dice, the fake dice throw that he said after the game he planned with his younger brother earlier this week. Celebration was on. Everyone was fired up. Quinn was even in a pretty good mood after the game. It felt like listening to that and watching that audio back. So, yeah, I mean, it was not a masterclass of offense. It just wasn't. Even in the fourth quarter, they were able to hold on, making enough shots. There were some big shots though. Dyson hit one, Hunter hit one. They did have some timely shot making, but on a night where several guys did not shoot well, and I mean several. In fact, I'm looking at this now. Only 3 guys shot 50% or better for the Hawks in the game from the field, and 2 of them were the centers. The only person that shot 50% or more non-center division was Hunter at 8 of 15. But Bogey didn't have it tonight as a shooter. Dyson wasn't great. Ricochet was 1 of 8 after he had 33 points in the first meeting. And all that, the Hawks just held up defensively, scratched it out, and took some pride in this one for sure if you are a Hawks fan. All right, more to come on the individual player breakdowns and a quick look at what's to come this weekend. Spoiler alert, it's a game against Milwaukee in Las Vegas. First, though, a word from our partners on the podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get in on the NFL, NBA action, and much more this season at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and right now, if you're a new customer, bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is really easy to use. It gives you everything that you actually need to place your bets all in one place. And they have all stuff you're looking for across the sports betting space, from over-unders to point spreads, money lines, player props and game props, future bets, same-game parlays, live betting, NBA Cup action, of course, and so much more. The FanDuel app is also safe and secure. They cover the entire range of sports. The NBA is the big thing on this podcast, of course, plus the NFL, college football, MLB, WNBA, hockey, golf, tennis, soccer, all kinds of leagues there, domestic and international. They have F1, they have NASCAR on the auto racing side, boxing, MMA, and so much more. And now is an awesome time to sign up with the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook, and the place to go is FanDuel.com to get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet at FanDuel. One more time, that's FanDuel.com, $150 in bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet at FanDuel. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, and before we sign off, a look at the individual player breakdowns in this game. By the way, congratulations to everyone on the Hawks roster. They're now guaranteed $102,000 each for even reaching the Final Four. If they win the semifinal, it actually doubles, and then after that, it doubles again in the finals, basically. But they've already banked $100,000, and I said it on Twitter today. People are like, "Well, these guys make." I understand that Trae does not need $100,000, but if you're Vit Krejci, if you are Garrison Matthews, if you're Mohamed Gay, and you're making $2 million, that's a lot of money. But if you can add $100,000, that's some nice extra money. Like, it's like adding a smaller number for people like me that make a lot less than that, but just extra money is not a bad thing. So anyway, there's some incentive there. To the actual players. Again, 9 guys played in this game. No surprises in the rotation, really. No Nance, no Roddy, no Garrison, no Kobe Buffkin. They did call guys from the G League to be around the team, but they were not active in this game. No surprise there. The only guy that I would have said might play was Kobe. He didn't. Vit Krejci, 8 minutes. Did not score. Was +4 in those minutes. Did a good job there. Had an assist, 3 rebounds. Missed the one layup, but other than that, he was just solid. He didn't do anything spectacular. Just kind of helped defensively, move the ball. Vit Krejci stuff, I would say, overall. Bogey was not his best in this one. 7 points on 9 shots, 1 of 7 from 3 was Bogey. 2 assists, 2 rebounds, had a steal and a block. Defensively, up and down as he often is. Had some nice highlight plays, actually, defensively. But to have this win with Bogey doing that is pretty nice. He wasn't great. He wasn't awful. But I will say this about Bogey. He always gets defended like he's a great shooter, because he is. And he gets that respect level does help everybody else with from a spacing perspective. Okongwu, I mentioned before, first half, I thought he was not very good, honestly. Second half, he was quite good, I thought. Finished with 12 points, 11 rebounds, had a steal and a block, 6 of 10 from the floor. Didn't miss 2 free throws, but other than that, he did a really good job. I thought after halftime, he kind of helped with Towns getting slowed down a little bit, and he was a couple nice finishes around the rim. Did his job very well. He's been, maddeningly inconsistent at times this year, has Okongwu, but I thought in this game, he had the one bad stint, and everything else was quite good after that. DeAndre Hunter is out of his mind right now. That's the simplest way to put it. I have covered DeAndre for every minute of his career. I have. I've watched him. I watched every game he's ever played. I've covered him the entire time. This is the best stretch of basketball DeAndre Hunter has ever played. And I don't say that lightly. If you're a regular listener, you will know that I don't exaggerate like that. I'm not doing it for effect. This is the best 2.5 weeks he's ever had as a professional basketball player. He's now scored 18 points or more in 8 consecutive games. And it's not only that, but that's obviously a big part of it. You'll laugh because Hunter ends this game with 1 rebound and no assists. I get it. He didn't do a ton of that stuff. He's never going to be a huge rebounder. He's never going to be a huge stock guy, blocks and steals. But his shot making, his aggressiveness, he's playing with confidence that he's not played with before. 24 points in this one he was 4 of 10 on 2, which isn't great, but 4 of 5 from 3, 4 of 6 at the free throw line, plus 10 in the game off the bench. He shot the ball incredibly well. And again, it's not just that. He's just playing really well. And he gives them more of a shot-making, shot creation element at times. He's playing with physicality. He's defending. He's in the role he was always supposed to be in defensively as a secondary defender, not primary. When you have Dyson, that makes things easier for everybody else. And I thought Hunter was really good in this game. And he's been, if you haven't paid attention recently until now, he's been awesome for about 2.5 weeks now. So he's healthy, knock on wood. But having Bogey and Hunter, I cannot overstate how important it is to have Bogey and Hunter. And it's been Hunter more than Bogey recently, but having those guys available just lifts the Hawks all the way up a couple of tiers, honestly, in their overall talent level. And for anybody that knew that has heard me say this recently, there are not many teams in the league, if any, that have a better 6, 7, 8 than Hunter, Bogdanovich, and Okongwu. Teams don't really have those guys off the bench. And yeah, Hunter is better than Ricochet right now, pretty obviously. So if you want to say he's a starter, that's fine, but he's not starting. So it's just it is what it is. Ricochet's got a lot of talent. He's a rookie, all those things, but Hunter was awesome in this game and has been awesome for a while. To the starters. Speaking of Ricochet, it's kind of funny in some respects. The first game against the Knicks, he had 33 points. It was his best shooting night of his career, best scoring night of his career. He was going crazy, and that's why they won that game in some respects. Tonight, the exact opposite. He was 0 of 4 on 3s, 1 of 4 on 2s, 2 points, 2 assists, 1 rebound, 1 block. Now, I will say, Offensively, he was not great. Defensively, he was really good. And he's been really good all year long, especially for a rookie. Like, he's doing his job. He's not killing them at all. He was helpful. He was part of the defense being really good in this game. They ended up going to Hunter late, as they should have. Hunter's a better player right now. But I thought Ricochet was fine despite the poor shooting. I don't think he did a bad job at all. He just didn't make shots. Clint Capella, I thought, was an underratedly impressive and important part of this game. Now, I like Clint. That's notable. But 11 points, 13 rebounds for Clint. No turnovers, had an assist, +6, 5-8 from the floor. I thought defensively he was, other than Dyson, their biggest key. He was walling off the paint in this one. He was really, really good, anchoring, calling stuff out, captaining the defense. It's ironic because the Knicks have been linked to Capella as a trade candidate, at least they had been this summer. He would really help them a lot, honestly. But he was on the other side tonight, and the Hawks were better for it. He was really good in this game. He ended up closing, which was the right call, I thought. I thought he played really well, and shout out to Clint for that. Dyson Daniels. Offensively, it was just okay. 9 points on 10 shots, 3 assists. Did have 2 turnovers, that's fine. 7 rebounds, did have 2 block shots. But, man, he had a big 3, actually. His only 3 of the game, only 3-point attempt of the game, was a big make in the fourth quarter. But he was aggressive enough. He did enough to kind of just be guarded, etc. Defensively, I already shouted him out for it once. I shot him out for it again. He kind of mirrored Brunson the entire game, and he just took him away. I mean, you don't stop a guy like that on your own. Brunson had his own struggles, but I thought Dyson was by far the biggest reason for that. He was excellent there. I think he's been the best perimeter defender in the NBA this year. That's full stop. Like, there are other candidates, sure. He's not in his own tier, probably. But if the season ended today, he would definitely be first-team All-NBA for me, as far as defense is concerned. Maybe Wemby's the defensive player of the year because Wemby's been ridiculous, and he's a center, and centers are kind of just more high-profile for those awards. But Dyson has been incredible, and he was incredible in this game, and hopefully he got some attention for it that he's not gotten yet nationally. And then at least with Trae and Jalen. So we'll go to Jalen first. Game best, +16 for Jalen, 21 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. A very Jalen performance. Just doing everything, checking a lot of boxes, rebounding at a high level. The passing was there. The stocks were there. The flash plays were there. First half, he struggled scoring the ball anyway. Second half, not so much. He still wasn't super efficient. He was actually only 7 of 15 on 2s, 1 of 5 from 3 in the game. But he was getting downhill. At the end of the game, he did seem to tweak his ankle. He did the walk-off interview. He stayed in the game. He was a little bit hobbled. We probably won't know anything about that until Friday, if I had to guess. Hopefully. Jalen's had some ankle issues in the past. He's been wearing braces this year. TBD. I don't want to rain on the parade too much. Hopefully he's good to go for Saturday and beyond. But that's the only kind of dark spot on this one. He was really, really good, especially in the second half. Like, he was really excellent and got a lot of attention. I saw national people like going crazy for him, and they should. He's having an all-star caliber season. I don't know if he'd make it right now, but he is on the short list of guys, and I shouted this out, I think, last week, but he is currently in the top 40 of the NBA in scoring, rebounding, and assists. And that is hard to do. Very few guys do that every year, maybe 2 or 3, no more than that. And he's on that list right now. And again, only added to it tonight with 21, 15, and 7, and an awesome performance from Jalen. Trae Young. It wasn't Trae's biggest stat night. 22 points, 11 assists. It's like pretty normal for Trae. As crazy as that is, that's obviously really good. He wasn't super duper efficient either. He was only 6 of 14 on 2s, 2 of 8 from 3, but 3 turnovers in the game. Really, really good. 5 rebounds. That's been a strength of Trae's this year. And he was in total and utter control in the second half. Total control. Third quarter, dominated the game on offense. Fourth, it was quieter. He missed some shots that he probably would want back, but he was the guy with the ball in his hands. He was taking it to the Knicks. He figured it out throughout the course of the game. He didn't play an A+ game for him. He didn't. It was more of a B game, I would say, for Trae, which is still really good because he's a superstar player. But it is just funny to me that people think that he's not a great player. He just is. Obviously, there's nuance there. Defensively, he'll always have limitations. All those things that we talk about forever. But I thought he was really good in this game. He participated defensively. He was battling there. Look, the whole narrative that it's impossible in some corners, people say this all the time. It's impossible to be good defensively with Trae Young. No, it's not. We're watching that in real time right now. And it isn't like the Hawks have 4 superstars with them defensively. They have Dyson, who's a superstar defensively. Clint gets there sometimes. Jalen's got flashes, but they're doing it right now with good defenders, but not elite ones in every position other than Dyson. So Trae's bought in. He's playing very well. And a fun night, too. Obviously, the showman stuff, Trae Young's playing there. That's very well documented. There was a moment in the third quarter early where the he was getting some choice words at the free throw line. And after that, he made a run. I don't think it's like because of that, quote unquote, but certainly if I was a Knicks fan, I probably wouldn't want to be chanting at Trae because he seems to take some power in that. But anyway, long story short, he was awesome in this game, especially in the second half, and the Hawks win it 108-100 despite some bad shooting. A wild win at the office for the Hawks. From here, the Hawks are going to Vegas, and so am I. I was already going, and I let the cat out of the bag a little bit on that. I went last year to cover the NBA Cup. I was going again this year. I have a credential already. I do cover things beyond the Hawks sometimes. But, of course, I could also spin it to where I knew it all the way. Hawks were always going to be there. Of course, I didn't know that. The Hawks were big underdogs to win the group, all those things. But I'll be there. So I am planning to do a podcast at some point between now and Saturday. I don't know when it's going to come out or what form it's going to be in. I have to travel. I'm flying out on Friday night, which is not great because there's some media stuff before that. But, again, I didn't know the Hawks were going to be there, and I have a day job. So I'll be flying out Friday night. So it won't be then, but I'll either drop it Thursday night or Friday during the day. Stay tuned. Please subscribe. We'll have some Bucks thoughts in there, I'm sure. And look, here, I'll just say this. The Hawks just played the Bucks last week. The only thing that's changed there is that Chris Middleton came back. Middleton's been playing last couple games, so that's obviously a little bit of a feather in their cap. They're more talented now than they were before. But the Hawks just beat the Bucks on the road, literally a week ago. So it's a winnable game for Atlanta. As I'm this recording at 11 p.m. or so Eastern time on Wednesday, we don't know tip-off time yet. I would say, in my experience, I would be pretty surprised, almost shocked, if the Hawks are not playing the early game on Saturday, which is scheduled to be about 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. That's my best guess for when the game is actually going to be happening, because this is a different schedule, but I know the tip-off times for the two games at this point in time. I'm checking one more time to make sure I'm not crazy here. Yeah, it'd be 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern is the game that I'm assuming it's going to be. That's not been announced, but there's a Western Conference game after that. It's got OKC in it. I'm assuming they're going to put Hawks Bucks in the early window. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll fix that up later on. But you can probably find the time. They'll probably announce that later tonight as I'm recording this podcast. But no matter what, the Hawks' next game is on Saturday in Las Vegas, semifinals, and there are 2 wins now away from hoisting the NBA Cup. And we'll see if they can pull that off when we get to Vegas. All right. That's all I have, folks. Please subscribe to this podcast. I would be very appreciative of that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're also on Overcast and Amazon Music. We're also on YouTube. Please like the video as you're watching it right now and subscribe and enable notifications on that platform. Comment if you want to help with the algorithm. That'd be very helpful as well. Please follow the show on X/Twitter at Locked On Hawks. I'm also on there at BT Rowland. I'm also on Blue Sky at BT Rowland. If you want to follow my non-podcast work about the Hawks, it's at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I very much appreciate it. Fun night for the Hawks. Fun night for Hawks fans, I am sure. And we'll see you all next time.